on. So I have a job I love now, and the time just flies. But watch this segue. Speaking of, they're on the assembly line, they keep coming. How the hell do you write so many goddamn columns? Because you write far more columns than I do, and if you follow Michael online, you know that about every 20 minutes he has another column that he punches out. You know, there I am trying to fix a paragraph for a column that won't run for 3 days, and he's got 8 more columns. How do you do that?
I was going to ask you the same question, but frankly, it's all a blur. But the guiding rule, if you know the old line about how to a hammer everything is a nail, to a columnist, and I'm sure Steve feels the same way, everything is possible material. Just one story. Some years ago, it was 2010 actually, I was stuck in a traffic jam on the 5 heading to work in the morning. And I don't know if you remember these, but every 5 inches there was a billboard that I saw that was advertising lap band surgery, weight loss surgery. It was 1-800-GET-THIN. And I was sitting in my car, the traffic was moving at about a centimeter an hour, and I looked around and I noticed that from where I sat in my car, I could see 6 or 8 of the exact same billboards as far as the eye could see. And my only question was, I wonder what the business model is of these guys. Who are they? Is it like 1-800-DENTIST or 1-800-FLOWERS? Are they just sort of, are they taking calls and then distributing out to members of their club? Is it a clinic? Is it a hospital? And that turned out to be a great idea because I was writing about them for 3 years and ultimately put them out of business because they were actually not selling something worth the money, and they were harming, as we proved, they were harming a lot of patients. But it started out by my asking myself an innocent question, which was, what is this? Who are these guys? And that day I came in and dialed 1-800-GET-THIN and got through to the boss, who immediately blew up in my face and said, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I don't care who you are. You must have lied to get this number. I thought, well, I guess it's not that innocent. It was sort of the Streisand effect. Do you know the Streisand effect? Anybody? Barbara Streisand owns a big compound on the coast and discovered at some point that aerial photographs had been taken of her property by some project or program that was devoted to taking aerial photographs of the entire California coastline. It was an environmental program or an academic program, and no one cared about her property. But she discovered this and went ballistic and filed a lawsuit. Nobody had known really that her pictures were online or in this program. In the 5 or 6 years before she filed her lawsuit, the photographs of her property had been downloaded like 6 times. In the month after she filed the lawsuit, they were downloaded 420,000 times. So the lesson is, if you want to keep something secret, then don't make a big deal about somebody who's asking questions.
I'm just sitting here wondering if I've ever put anybody out of business. And I can't think of anybody that I did put out of business. Maybe a couple.
Well, you've made a lot of people unhappy, which is sort of the same thing.
Uncomfortable is what I really go for. That's what I really shoot for.
Uneasy, unhappy, uncomfortable.
Maybe a couple of coastal commissioners. But, well, let me ask you this. Who are you trying to put out of business now?
Well, that's like asking me, what am I writing about these days? Well, let's see. Just this morning, my column this morning was about 3 companies that used to manufacture lead paint for homes and have been sued by the County of Los Angeles and 9 other cities and counties in California to try to force them to clean up the homes where their lead paint was used, and the lead paint is deteriorated and chipped, and children are ingesting and breathing the dust and getting lead poisoning. And they've been fighting this lawsuit for 17 years. So, the hope is that something in that column will spur a settlement of some sort, or at least to move the case along. What have you been?
Well,
who have you been tormenting?
I have something even more substantive than that today. I wrote about trying to learn Spanish by listening to the Dodger broadcast. Jaime Jarin. Does anybody here listen to Jaime Jarin? Oh, we got a Jaime Jarin fan right here. All these years, all you hear about is Vin Scully, Vin Scully, Vin Scully, Vin Scully. And he deserves it, right? An icon, maybe the best ever. But working right alongside him for 58 years in the next booth was Jaime Jarin. That's the Spanish broadcast. And the way I got into this was I was in a locker room. I went swimming, and after the swim, I was in the locker room, and so here's back to your point about you're sitting in the car and you see a lap band ad. I'm in the locker room, and I see a guy who is Asian telling somebody that he learned how to speak English by listening to Chick Hearn and Vin Scully. And I'm thinking, well, that's cool. That's really neat. That's the kind of place LA is. What an LA story. And I thought, well, what do I do with that? There's got to be a column in this for me. There's got to be a column in everything, right? And so then I thought, well, I've been halfway fluent in Spanish for so long. My name is Lopez because mis abuelos eran de España. Does everybody understand that, or do I need to translate? My grandparents on my dad's side are from Spain. And my dad grew up speaking Spanish, but when I was born, spoke only English. It was that time when, assimilation, and in some ways there's still that today. Los inmigrantes querían ser americanos. He wanted to be an American. They didn't want to be seen as immigrants. So I never got Spanish from my dad, and then we were traveling in Spain, and I didn't know that my dad could speak much Spanish because I hadn't heard it in years. And we got lost, and I thought my junior high Spanish was going to rescue us. So I asked a guy on the Ramblas in Barcelona, we're lost, we need help. And I had not a clue what this guy said in response. I mean, something about how Spanish in Spain is a little different, the Castellan is different. I could not understand him at all, and I was kind of embarrassed. And my dad steps in and begins a conversation that just knocked me out. Just flawless and comfortable and no sweat. And has a long conversation with this guy in Spanish. I'm looking, is that my dad? And why the hell didn't he do that when I was a kid? I mean, I'm working in LA, writing stories about people. My name is Lopez, and I don't speak fluent Spanish. That's a shame. So, given what I heard in the locker room, I thought, you know what, I'm going to start listening more to Dodger. Vin Scully's gone, I'll listen to the Dodgers in Spanish. And I know enough that I can make out what's going on, and it's really helping a lot. So one day last week, I called Jaime Jarin, and I said, hey, you don't know me. I think I did it in Spanish, actually. And I said, you don't know me? He said, yes, I do. He said, the first thing I do every day is read the LA Times. Jaime Jarin, let's give it, how about a hand for Jaime Jarin? He started his day with the LA Times. And he said, yeah, I've been reading you for years. And I said, well, guess what? You're my Spanish teacher. And we had a lovely conversation. And I told him, you know what, Jaime, I was listening today to a business show on 10:20 AM, 10:20 AM. And they were talking about how do you make it in business. See, I did write a business column, I guess. I'm on your turf with this one. And they were talking about what are good ways to get ahead in business, and there were kind of predictable answers. You got to work really hard, stay in school, study, don't take no for an answer, be internet, savvy, and all of that. And then at the end of it, they had like 5 or 6, and one host asked another in Spanish, well, what about learning English? If you want to get a good job in LA and you're Spanish speaking, would it help to learn English? And the other host said, yes, absolutely, it would open a whole new world to you. And I thought, well, yes, but this broadcast is in Spanish. So you don't have to learn English in Los Angeles because you can listen to Jaime Jarin You could do the Dodgers in Spanish. You could turn on the radio. You can do the news, the noticias. So I asked Jaime. I said, "Do you ever think to yourself? I mean, it's a wonderful broadcast, and you're an icon, and he's in the Hall of Fame along with Vin Scully." I said, "Does it ever concern you that because people don't have to speak, they can tune into you, they don't have to learn Spanish?" And he said, "You know what? I came to this country from Ecuador. I had learned some English before I got here, and then I studied even more because I wasn't fluent enough. And I think people should hold on to their histories and their cultures, but if you come to the United States, you ought to learn English, and I'm a big advocate of bilingualism. If you speak 2 languages, if you speak 3, different worlds open up to you." So that was my column today. It's about Jaime Jarrín. This all comes from overhearing somebody in a locker room. So you never know, a column can come from anywhere.
Right, and the columns have to come from everywhere because we're both writing quite a bit. Maybe we should throw the